Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with the 108th episode of Book of Hours, playing as the artist and enjoying the sound of the sea. The sound in this game is really, really great. We've done a lot of prep in terms of sort of what the next steps are going to be. We have a lot to do today in terms of the affair of the Oriflamme heist. So I think probably we'll still have enough time to get something done with Mr. Kill. We're not going to worry about the incandescent hollow right away. It is, that's obviously a big moment. That's one that I am looking forward to unlocking. But right now, I'd like to put a little bit of attention into, some of the more straightforward stuff that we can clean up. So I'll note in particular that we've got the Screaming Summit, which requires either 2 winter or 12 sky. But we also have the Mist-Sunk Meadow, and with the Didymos, I suspect that we are going to be able to go into the Mist-Sunk Meadow, and I think that's going to be the best use for Mr. Kill for the next couple of days. And then in the meantime, that'll also allow us to do a little bit more with Reverend Timothy. Now, it did also occur to me that I'm reading the Almanac of Entrances, but I don't believe I tried to get the pattern, so let's do that right now, and for that, I think I will employ the Arab. I would need to find a desk that would take Grail or Edge for that. Let's take care of Nona's desk for that. And we can read... Let's do the Twin Serpent Tantra. I think we might have read this already, but... Well, I know we've read it already, but I think I may have read this recently, but we'll have opportunities to read all of these more than a few times. Okay, actually, this cloudy day might be enough for me to make the magic happen at the Nocturnary. So, as always, we need Edicts Martial. So we have the Asmail. There it is. Recall a forgotten crime of moon and winter. Mr. Kill can always spare a few hours to help a friend. Mr. Kill, Ryan Spry, doesn't mind stopping for a gossip, add something to enhance Mr. Kill's effectiveness for the day, or just talk. Unlike some assistants, Mr. Kill can make use of wood. That's going to be something we take advantage of in the future, but right now we'll take care of rest and refreshment. Tuppence will buy me a hearty meal in a quiet place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. It is autumn when the leaves rustle. The silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. And I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come. So if I recall correctly, I was waiting on this solace to be able to build an ascendant harmony. Let's see if I was correct on that. It wasn't Sacrileme, it was Applebright. Yeah, there's the 7, so we take the Nazarene Fife, craft the Ascendant Harmony, conjure a bright sky music. So once the knock comes in, we'll use the Shrine to St. Januarius to make the curious hunch that we wanted. Now I have an idea of this book's nature and its contents. The intimations of skin, fiendishly complex, weirdly distorted illustrations of Congress and anatomy by the haunted visionary painter Niels Friedrich Malsker. So it's a pretty straightforward one for us to read. And then I believe we have one more text to catalog. I should just take a minute here to think, do I need anything else for the tryst? I suppose if I want to make the Asmail, I'll want to... Yeah, I won't want to... I won't want to use the tryst there. So I suppose I'm risking a little bit of core doing this, but I think it's an acceptable risk. So the reading room desks should be sufficient. We will catalog the last of the Nocturnal books. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's Nocturnal period, after the turn of the century. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. The Nocturnal books don't have the same kind of threat in terms of, in terms of curses, so I feel a little safer messing around with that. But dead men don't tell no bloody tales. Well, who'd listen? Right. An Almanac of Entrances, a handbook of sealed and unsealed byways and shortcuts through the bounds, compiled by Willem Harries in the 1860s during his term as librarian of Hush House. Harries discusses the role played by the Legion de Sul and the Company of the Wolf in Gold in warding the bounds against outside influences. He warns that bounds travelers may themselves be considered outside influences. The Mansis, as Ys, lacks walls. Ys and the Mansis have both their gates, and there may be no gate without a wall. Thus the paradox resolves, as all those who walk in dream will learn. But the wood has neither gate nor wall, and so it is the wood whose roots may creep after us into the hours of our waking. So there's the secret threshold, and then we should have a pattern waiting for us in the other room. The Twin Serpent Tantra. Just before the outbreak of the Great War, Alexander Sparrow, almost certainly a pseudonym, published leaflets claiming the influence of snake princes on world affairs. The text called the Twin Serpent Tantra was his primary inspiration. The Tantra describes the Great Hooded Princes, a dynasty of unclear origin, engaging in prayers, sacrifices, and poetry in honor of the Key Serpent, the Crossroads Twins, and the Mirror Queen. Nagai encircles, Nagai arises from wounds, Nagai spares those who are already harmed. The Great Hooded Princes are described as having escaped from the history of their death to a history where they yet live. The text claims that there are now 108 of them, but in one of the many instances of twinnedness, before they crossed from their death chronicle, there were only 54. So, pattern something fits just right. One of the things I do like, it's kind of funny, right? Because half of the time I spend playing Secret Histories games are just this constant, just this feeling of being completely baffled about the setting and what's going on. And yet, part of the great enjoyment of these games, I sort of feel, is when everything clicks. And it's kind of fun, right? When you have something like a pattern in the game. This is definitely, I think, something that the developers are very specifically trying to have the player feel. So it's always, I don't know, it's just one of these things, right? When you have a game which is specifically trying to provoke a very specific type of feeling, and that feeling appears as a mechanic or an item in the game, it's, I don't know, makes me smile. Maybe that's just a me thing. All right, letters from a fugitive. Lars Westergren, explorer and murderer, spent 7 years escaping justice through his knowledge of byways and shortcuts in the bounds. Throughout that time, he wrote regularly to his daughter, possibly in part to taunt his pursuers. A year with the Legion de Sul, patrolling the bounds until he deserts, a month in the Priory of Captains in Morbihan, 7 days or so he claims in Ys behind the wave. Cornered at last by his pursuers, Westergren writes that he will attempt the paths of the sun. He doesn't seem sanguine about his chances, and indeed, this is his last letter. An editor's note adds that Westergren's whereabouts or end remain unknown, although he was supposedly sighted at the Christmas market in Vienna, the negotiations between invisible underworld figures that happens each year there in 1929. Confounding parable, the moth, the Grail, and the egg unhatching all tell different stories of the world's beginning. One of those stories is the oldest, but it may not be the first. Apis Nona. Now I have an idea of this book's nature and its contents. The snare of the tree, collected proverbs of Aunt Mopsy. Once in the wood we call a visit. Twice in the wood we call a journey. Thrice we call coming home. So that's another 8 Grail for us to work with. Now, what we were saving this core here for was the shrine to Saint Januarius in order to be able to produce the knock memory, the curious hunch that we wanted. Knit memories into certainty. And then at this point, I think we want to use... Nope, we can't do that. We would need to do that at the dispensary. Alternatively, we can try it... we can't try it at a desk because I can't put a liquid in there. Yeah, the Alchemist Glassware won't take the Tryst. Noctonary is currently in use. Maybe. There we go. Brew a silvery moon ink. It's not like I need to rush this stuff, but it is kind of nice to be able to have that done. Alright, so what else am I trying to do? We've got the Ascendant Harmony, we've got a Didymos to play around with. I suppose at some point I wanted to make a replacement Witching to Sane. That's part of the usual work. I mean, I suppose I can do that. I guess I can't do that at the kitchen range. Desires and Dissolution says Moon, so I can't do that there either. I'm wondering if there's a way that I can... Yeah, with Desires and No? I'm convinced that there is a way that I can combine... Oh, there is! At Ava's desk, of all places, because of the Edge and Desires and Dissolutions, we can in fact create a Witching to Sane. Who would have thought? Hush House still rings with Thwarted Desires. I will mix that into a to Sane. Okay, and then the health is sort of the free element, but I suppose I can use that to earn money if I really want. Alternatively, I can do some gardening, but I don't know if that's the most important thing I can be doing right now. Alright, is there someone en route to Hush House? The affair of the Oriflamme heist. Oriflamme's auction house is never robbed, but what if it has been? What if somehow priceless treasures have been replaced with pricey forgeries? How could we even be sure? Visitors with an interest in Nock and Forge mysteries will want to talk about this. Princess Coquille Amira Gibi. Artist, socialite, burglar? An unspeakably charming woman with a particular knack for getting adopted. So, Nock and Grail. So in this case, it'll be a Nock question. However, this is our opportunity to learn Vac. It's a little dicey to do so because we're low on Spintria, and yet I have not felt the obligation to satisfy all visitors here. So we'll wait for matters with Mr. Kill to be resolved first. I think probably going for the Vac makes the most sense here. Better now. Manual labor. There is not much work on offer in Brandkrug, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. Dead men don't tell no bloody tales. We'd listen. Okay, so we'll give him the whist first. We'll watch for what lies ahead. I want to get everything cleared out of the way with Mr. Kill, because if we do go for a language lesson, that's pretty much going to eat up the talk verb. Mind you, I have more memories to work with than I really know what to handle. All of this is lining up very well in terms of times, by the way, so the Wormwood Dream will arrive just in time. We've already got the preparation. Let us hope it is equally possible to forget this again. My assistant and I will be prudent. I can discuss this memory with my assistant. This will use up the memory, but boost the assistant's abilities for the rest of the day. With Keeper level Sky, an Ascendant Harmony might conjure a Didymos, bright and ringing music which evokes the blue sweep of the lower heavens. So we'll feed Mr. Kill the Solomon's preparation, and then we can get our Vac lessons. In the name of the 2 blades that are one, of the threshold which has 2 sides. Sacrament Asite. Back in the Dawn period, the Sisterhood of the Triple Knot used this in the rites of the Horned Axe. So I know I wanted to use this dispensary for something. I think that was probably for the Asmiel, but we've clearly got what we need. Now, at some point it would be nice to make another Glassfinger toxin as well as another Sacrament Acite, but obviously I've got my work cut out for me. And at this point, I know I kind of used to keep this stuff on the shelves, but I think this is a standard beverage just like everything else, so we'll move that one down there as well. We have a pretty regular way of being able to produce that. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about where we're at. It's best when it's warm, but it'll keep. It does feel pretty good to have so many elements of the soul used so early in the day. It does mean that I have a little bit more waiting, but I don't think that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's you know, we kind of know what we want to do with the day, so Tuppence will buy me a hearty meal and a quiet place. Actually, you know what? I feel like doing knowledge work, so Tuppence will buy me a hearty meal and a quiet place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. It is autumn when the leaves rustle. The silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. And here we go. Memories don't last long outside books, but it's made the difference for the day. Now, as always, it helps to take a quick look at what we want to do with Mr. Kill. So, for instance, in this case, we've got the Screaming Summit. So if I was so inclined, one of the options that I have, if I take a look here, right, we've got 2 U blank, and we've got... actually, we've got a third one here. And then we've also got a spare Eigengrau that we've had some difficulty getting rid of. In fact, yeah, it's kind of sitting here. So you know what? It's a little silly, and it's going to take me more time than I was originally planning. But I think in this case here, I'm going to do the trick. In fact, before we do that, because technically Solomon's Preparation is an option if I blow this. So, additional supplies, I can offer my assistant any suitable timber I have lying around. I figure we've already got more than enough Eigengrau, so this just saves me a little more space. If I want, I could also give him Isle Water, but I'll settle for the Grey Dawn oil if it were drinkable. With Keeper level Moon, not Moth, Asmiel can deepen to Black Sapphire. We can also probably find out what does that if I were to keep the Wormwood Dream, but that's not happening now. The Moth's Gift or Mine? Curious Hunch, a sudden unlikely certainty. So we'll use that with Reverend Timothy when the time comes. Let it clutter up their shelves. This has improved their aspects appropriately. So you also can see that this is sort of the dress rehearsal for our effort to head down to the hollow. I can offer my assistant something to drink. After that, we will talk with the princess about a special language. Actually makes slightly more sense to do it this way. Down to the Grussians. This has boosted their aspects appropriately. And better now. Help with letters. I could offer help with correspondence and arithmetic. There is no school in Brandkrug, and not everyone here knows their letters. Okay, so we are going to open up the Screaming Summit. Here the wind's rage is so great that I can barely stand upright. It forces me to retreat back to the stairs. I can hear the voice in the wind now, crying out in sorrow as great as the wind's rage. And we'll now have a chat with Princess Kokil Emirajibi, artist socialite burglar, an unspeakably charming woman with a particular knack for getting adopted. Darling, hello. I have the teeniest favor to ask. If there is an incident card active, you can discuss it, or you can leave the slot empty and offer a consultation. In this case, tutoring Vac. My visitor can teach me the rudiments of this bold language. After tutoring you, the visitor will leave, even if they arrived on other business. So that's 3 minutes that's taken up. However, we did have these 3 books, which we now have the ability to read. So the manner in which the alchemist was spared, we'll put that... Okay, not as difficult as my deeds. We've got the road to Janus. Now that is a difficult one. It's kind of more... I believe this would be more like a 16 knock text, because VAC gives us a knock, but still a challenging one. And then observations on the peacock door, so this should be a more straightforward one for us to read. So, snare of the tree, intimations of skin, these are things that I should basically be reading as soon as I can. Observations on the peacock door, again, I think we should, either with Inks of Containment or Desires and Dissolutions, we should be able to make decent headway on that. If I can keep the Confounding Parable, so much the better. The Book of Thrones, I think between Sickle and Eclipse and our Arab, we should be able to manage that. And it's really once we start getting to the Kukurbit prisoner records and beyond that we start looking at texts that might require a roll of the dice. But we'll see. I mean, I have... Oh, that's right. We don't have Hyksos yet. And here I thought we were done with our language learning. So I think tomorrow, probably that's going to be a Reverend Timothy day. Now, the awkward part about this is that I'm going to want... Actually, I'll use the... Oh, man. Yeah, this is actually going to be quite the puzzle. Yeah, we have time. So I'll explain tomorrow why there's a little bit of a dilemma in terms of what I want to do. The Gullscry Tower summit in 1721, Valentine fell, or leapt, from the tower top. There were no witnesses, and his body was not found for 3 days. His daughter Ava was the last to see him alive, and of their last conversation she would say only that he had begun to fear the sun. So here we have got a granite slab, potted avidity, a lush and hungry ornament, dandelion wine, Valentine's memorial. Valentine died 2 centuries ago. This stone is much newer, more like 2 decades old. And we have Atlantic amber, sunset's colors, pine's blood. And the tower top prospect, remember what has passed. So we have soul, sky and winter, skill, memory, and it will accept an element of the soul, a beast, paper, and memory or a pigment. An afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers through the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. So again, this is a pretty quiet period now. We're gonna let the day take care of itself. So here's the challenge that I have. We've got the trapped cell, so I would be able to use Reverend Timothy to open that up. But to get Reverend Timothy, I'm going to need to use the Faust, the Whist, or the Shapt. Now the Shapt, I'm going to need to upgrade Reverend Timothy with. So it's like, okay, well that's not a challenge. Just use the Faust or the Whist. Well, the other thing that I want to do is with Mr. Kill, and I would like to open up the Mist-Sunk Meadow. And of course, with that, I'm potentially going to want to use the Sky. And of course, to get Mr. Kill, I would need to use the Whist. So I'm actually going to take a quick minute here and just work this out now that I've got the Didymos. So with Mr. Kill, he gives me 1. The Faust would also give me 1. Now, previously we had been relying on a Storm. Now we've got a 6. So if I go for Kill with a 1, I go for a Fife with a 3, so that brings us up to 4. I already see where this is going. So we've got the Didymos. So that gives me the 6, so that brings us up to 10. So what's the part that's missing? Hang on, that doesn't make any sense. Because what I've got right now, so we've got Mr. Kill with the 1, we've got the Faust with the 1, so that brings me up to 2. The Storm used to bring me up to 6, And the fife would bring me up to 9. What went wrong here? Okay, so kill and Faust is 2. Add the storm, that's 6. Add the fife, that's 9. So going up to a Didymos should mean that we go up to 11. Okay, no, that makes... So why... I'm just trying to figure out why I've got a 10 written here. Anyway, it's clear that I need the Faust. Okay, well, there's no way around it. I'm just going to wind up treating it a little bit like the others. So, I'll use the... What I figure I'll do here is I'll use the Faust to bring in Reverend Timothy, the Whist to bring in Mr. Kill. We renew the Faust, and then our focus will be on leveling up Reverend Timothy. Then we'll take care of Mr. Kill afterwards. Better now. Oh, I blew it this time. I might be able to get away with unpacking one of these. Crack open the container, delight in your... Nope, that's going to take a minute. So, oh no, that was the Faust. I really couldn't afford... I really, really messed that up. All right, well, I mean, we've got a bunch of extra money for a reason, right? Yeah, I really didn't do myself any favors here. Alright, memories fade, assistance departs, but the soul is refreshed. So, we're gonna speak with Mr. Kill. Mr. Kill always enjoys a chance to catch up with me. If you don't choose a topic, Mr. Kill will offer help as a friend. In this case, we will push ahead and use the Shapt to speak with Reverend Timothy. Reverend Timothy enjoys thoughtful conversation, prayer, and tea. He'll offer assistance in return for a 1 shilling donation to church funds. And obviously I've got all my work cut out for me in terms of making the day work. Mr. Kill can always spare a few hours to help a friend. We do appreciate the contribution. So in 2 seconds I will get my... I'll get my talk verb back. It is autumn when the leaves rustle. The silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. Now, before I go too much further, I really, at this point, should be working on these various books. So let's see what I can do with the Snare of the Tree without any adjustments. And you know what? I didn't try to save the confounding parable, so shame on me for not doing that. Resurgence is an oh, yeah, this is a piece of cake, so... in fact, I don't even need to worry about the Arab in this case. But what am I gaining by not using this Arab? So, I can master this mystery. Enough Grail to match Mystery Grail. If I'm going to do that, though, let's do the minimum required. So that's Desires and Dissolutions. So I am curious about the Book of Thrones. I want to see if I can get clever. So we take the Arab and the Sickle and Eclipse. Yeah. So I need a memory off of it, but I can make this work. So we'll take the FET and we'll go for good old contradiction. Should do the trick, I think. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. Okay, so we're saving this Arab for the Book of Thrones. Observations on the Peacock Door. So that's an Inks of Containment. So we've got 6, 7... Yes, that is one where I would use a... oh man, that is a disappointment. That is one where I needed the confounding parable. But look, it is what it is. So we can use the Vagabond Desk for this one. And we will read the Moon's Egg. Okay, so that tryst is spoken for. So the intimations of skin, I think we can do at Nona's desk. That should be just a simple matter of resurgences and emergences. Now I kind of have my options in terms of what I use here, but the core is as good as anything. I'm not going to have any heart tasks to take care of. So we will add that one. And yeah, we'll leave the Kukerbit prisoner records. That sort of stuff is going to sort itself out on its own. Now, I realize I'm going over time a little bit, but I do want to get a little more... I want to make a little more progress here. So I've learned enough to puzzle out books in this language, though it might be slow going. You can also use and improve this like any other skill. So before gods arose from blood, before ever ape stood upright, this was the language heard in the house of the sun. I am Vac, the Peacock Door boasted, both the tongue and the goddess. I am the only entrance into secret light. I was worshipped before you upright apes, and I will still be when all of you are ugly ash. Listen, and I will prove it. So 2 knock and 1 rose. Now the other thing I should just double check here, so this is in Vac, this is in Frisian, and we're not reading the rest of these, so we're in good shape. Let's get talking. So, with the Rector's assistance, we will start with the Curious Hunch. I can discuss a memory with my assistant. This will use up the memory, but boost the assistant's abilities for the rest of the day. Crack open the container. Delight in your discovery. We've got the wormy pumpkin. At a glance, it seems uncorrupted, but it's squirming with regrettable visitors. Guess what we're going to make Mr. Kill eat? Oops. I mean, maybe it makes sense. You know what? If it's the wormy pumpkin, we'll put it in the jail cellar. Okay, so yes, we need to talk. So I figure what I'll do is I'll queue up Reverend Timothy to open the part of the jail that's relevant, and maybe give Mr. Kill the parts that he needs for his sky advancement, and then that'll be what we end on. The main motivation here is knowing that I can't leave myself notes that I am going to check in the same way. I do want to make sure I've locked down a little bit more of the playthrough than what I normally have. So. Alright, I can offer my assistant something to drink. This will increase their aspects. They'll also be glad of the refreshment. So again, I realize that this is pushing it a bit in terms of the broadcast, but that's what I got. Better now. Alright, so that's gonna get us ready to go with Reverend Timothy. I still need to bring the Fost back so that I can bring Mr. Kill to the level that I need. Alright, as the sun is coursed, Joel of the Bridge, a retired soldier and sometime tollkeeper, wrote this epic poem about Alexander's famously inexplicable decision at Issus to withdraw from the war with the Achaemenids and his subsequent return to Macedonia. Alexander meets at Issus with Darius, king of kings, for 3 days and 3 nights. On the first day, the two men trade threats. On the second, promises. On the third, secrets. Darius tells Alexander something so shattering he retires to his tent to consider matters of strength and matters of mastery. At dawn of the 4th day, Alexander announces the sun has his course upon which he returns, and so do I. He returns to Macedonia, executing 2 of his captains when they dispute his decision. He brings with him the names of a blind god and a rite of sacred betrayal. For Joel opines, without betrayal there would be an end to war. So that gives me the memory for contradiction that I need. We also have the Moon's Egg. The third and last volume of the Meditations of Abbot Thomas of the Abbey of the Black Dove. Abbot Thomas speaks of the coming death he hears in the sound of the waves, but rejoices that his blood will water the egg of the moon, by which he seems to mean the future. The last chapter was dictated, not written, by Abbot Thomas. When Thomas's old sword brother Trygive returned to raid the abbey, Thomas had broken his monastic oaths and taken up arms to defend the abbey. The two had been mortally wounded. Thomas's last words are, "The wheel turns, the moon sleeps." Okay, so let's put this all into practice. We're still reading the book at Ava's desk, so we'll use the Vagabond desk to do our edgy reading. So, Book of Thrones, we take the Contradiction, we take Sickle and Eclipse, and then the Cucurbit Barrette should see us through to the end here. Edge of Conquest, I can master this mystery. Next up, our Moon book. The reading room ought to do the trick here, so we take the Tryst. We are taking observations of the Peacock Door, using Inks of Containment. We will now add the Confounding Parable. Now this requires Vac, and I believe if I add the Lunar Globe, that is sufficient to read that text. Yep, Culmination, I can master this mystery. And we are already reading the rest. So, I mean, I suppose I could give myself a shot with my deeds, my powers, my achievements, and the injustices perpetrated against me. It would take, oh, you know what? I'm not going to commit to it. Back when I had that hindsight, that might have been wiser, but let's just play with it to see what it would have looked like. Everyone knows that Hokebald would definitely want the Spanners to be read with that. So, we're at 13 of 16. Okay, so either I need the Earthquake name or I need to take my chances. Alright, we're getting close to the 40-minute mark, which is probably a point where I should lock this down for real. So let's get Reverend Timothy his shaft. Down to the Grushians. Education or beguilement? Now, there is a reasonable question here as to, you know, what do I want to use my remaining elements of the soul for? I've already got my ass meal. It might make some sense to try and make another Glassfinger toxin, but whether or not I'll have the knock for that is a whole other question. I could also try to raise something up to Didymos because I do have a storm that I'm working with. But again, all of this is maybe something that I can leave for a future playthrough. It's kind of a shame that we have the storm today just because, like, the Didymos gives me the 2 extra sky. That's clearly something we needed, but, like, I sort of feel like I need to use the storm. They're so rare. All right, my assistant and I fall easily into conversation. There is the knock that we needed. Let's storm out the gate with the Didumo so I can discuss a memory with my assistant. Reverend Timothy, a sign outside the cell reads, "Warning, do not enter while safety measures are armed." And I believe that is it. So, for next week, what are we going to do? Well, first of all, with Mr. Kill, we are going to... In fact, I'm going to put an underline on the sky stuff. We're going to want to talk with Mr. Kill about the fife. In fact, maybe I should have done that before the Didumos, just in case I took leave of my senses. But yeah, we're going to talk with him about the fife. We're going to talk to him about the Faust, and that should be sufficient to open up the Mist-Sunk Meadow, which is actually a fairly important place. Our remaining rooms, so we still have the Riddling Stair and the wheel-filled spring. Now, until we get somebody with Moon, which I believe actually would be the miner in spring, so that's not like these are major concerns. There is the possibility that our regular access to the Wormwood Dream now enables us to go into the Dawn Period caves, but it's not the sort of thing that I'm moving heaven and earth to work on right now. Obviously, we've got other things that we can do. It's our choice in terms of when we handle the Incandescent Hollow, and then the Smoky Chamber, I do feel with 12 heart... I don't know. In fact, let's work this out now, because I really feel like with Mrs. Kill, we probably should be at a point where I'm... So if we've got heart, we've got Mrs. Kill for 1. Then we'd use the storm, let's say. That brings us up to 5. I'm sure I've done this already. We've got 1 tool. That brings us up to 6. Then the Ruby-Wise Ruin, I think, is the only drink that we have to improve the heart. I think that's where the plan falls apart, actually. Yeah, so Ruby-Wise Ruin brings us up to 8. Now, if we're looking for heart, we can get that with food. Okay, we can do 2 for... Fair enough. That brings us up to 10. Oh man, that is tempting. Okay. So we've got Mrs. Kill, we've got the memory, we've got the tool. Oh. Really? So we just add a core to that. I wonder if I try and bring Mrs. Kill in now. Because if you look at it, right? So we've already got the storm. So 30 seconds for the tool. So 1 minute. 1 minute. 2.5 minutes. That's silly. No. Okay, yeah, so sorry, this is now like 15 minutes over. But it turns out, I'm sure I just wasn't thinking about this, but we actually have enough to open up the Smoky Chamber with Mrs. Kill. And I completely didn't register it. So we've got a lot, actually. So in terms of things that I want to do, we'll see what we've got inside this room here. We will use Mr. Kill to open up the Mist-Sunk Meadow. This should open up a path to this room here. We'll probably use Mrs. Kill to open up the Smoky Chamber. There is definitely something I'm looking forward to talking about in here. And of course, most importantly for today, we're not really going to be able to work with a lot of this, but we've got multiple books that we're reading. There's going to be a ton of memories that come out of that. We'll have a bunch of skills to handle. So it might be that I actually put everything else on hold and we just digest all of the lessons learned that we get. We've got lots of we've got plenty to do in the season of autumn, but I do generally, where I can, want to try and use the lessons learned as quickly as I can, just so I don't sort of get left hanging during an inconvenient Numa. So yeah, again, full plate for next week. But as always, thank you very much for watching. I'm hoping you're feeling enthusiastic about the next few entries, because not only have we made some progress now, but it's really clear that we've got a lot to do. And that's even before I start considering the possibilities with the various moon options here. So if you consider progress in this game to be opening rooms, we still have quite a bit of that ahead of us, and I can tell you the dawn period gets interesting, as does the rest of the Kuker bit. But of course, I don't need to tell you any more on next week. I should probably just wrap it up here. Like I said, thank you for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.